Okay, good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and get started with the first presenters today. For this first presentation, we have Jay Fowler and Robert Serrato, and they're going to be talking about the City of Charlotte's Community Hub.
Hey everyone. Like every presentation I do, I want to start off with a joke, if that's okay. So why should you never iron a 4-leaf clover? Because you don't want to press your luck. So today we're going to talk about the ArcGIS Community Hub that the City of Charlotte, my old team, so I've moved jobs since we put this together, worked on over the past several years in conjunction with Esri and specifically Jay Fowler. So here's an agenda. I don't really want to read this off to you, but essentially we're going to talk about the ArcGIS Community Hub, and we're going to talk about Charlotte's evolution and like where we started and where we ended up. We'll do some demos and show you some really cool things. But I'm going to pass it to Jay, and we're probably going to do this flip-flop thing. Go ahead, Jay.
Seamlessly is the word you were looking for. So wanted to just level set and talk about Hub really quickly. I think a lot of y'all have probably experienced the technology, whether you knew it or not. But essentially, it's a platform on top of ArcGIS Online that's going to help you, I like to say, license the unlicensable. So these groups in the community that y'all partner with really closely, frequently if you're in state government, if you're in county, city, municipal government, you get these groups where it's like, oh, it'd be great if we could give them a user, right? Maybe it's at an academic institution, maybe it's a nonprofit, maybe it's a volunteering group. It's always been unrealistic that they're going to buy a creator in ArcGIS Online, right? So it's difficult to figure out how to securely give them access to share data. And then Hub came along, and it really gave us that ability to license the unlicensable. So we can build out these purpose-driven websites that then tie in the ability to share and collaborate with these different groups in the community. Robert asked me to speak on kind of the evolution and proliferation of Hub, which is a really good topic. You know, this clipping that we have here from 2014 was when City of Charlotte actually had the Open Data Site of the Week, right? So this was a pretty good bit of time ago, and at the time, this product was really just focused on doing open data, government transparency. I heard somebody talking earlier about return on investment and just opening up that world of open data and reducing the number of phone calls saved them tons of hours, right? So this was the initial purpose. However, we then saw groups starting to do things like leverage Hub to essentially have their strategic plans. We started seeing more complex initiatives evolve, right? So we're trying to do backflow inspections and give people identities tied to that. Maybe we're trying to look at affordable housing. Maybe we're trying to do homelessness point-in-time counts. So we needed the technology to do more than just open data initiatives. It really had to grow and evolve so that it could support the more strategic nature and the collaboration needed. It evolved to be able to have different types of teams, people that could view information, people that could edit information, all outside of your organization. This was kind of a crazy concept at the time. We had this partnered Hub organization where folks could get a user, build content, maybe create their own web map, submit data. So the product continued to evolve. We started to enable different groups in the communities that you could volunteer and partner with. We started to have the ability to have these teams where we added you to a team. It was just a group, but you could upload your own content to these teams and even start doing things like have discussions. And then finally, we started to bake it into our solution so that it wasn't so much of like a deploy it and it just creates this blank template for you. It was like, no, we're going to help you get there with a recipe for how you might want to build that Hub site. So we've really evolved that product over time, and it's proliferated exponentially. So in 2019, I spoke at NCAUG, and I was really trying to encourage more folks to deploy Hub. If you had ArcGIS Online, you had Hub Basic. At the time, there were like 37 public Hub sites I could find in North Carolina. Some were private, and I couldn't find those, right? They weren't shared publicly, but I had identified about 37. Flash forward to today, I just recently did a search on hub.arcgis.com. I filtered for Hub initiatives, sites, pages, projects, and I typed in North Carolina. Turned up like almost 200 results, right? And so you think about that growth over a number of years. You think about, there's a number of these that aren't shared publicly, but I'd say the North Carolina community really has evolved and started using this product much more. At user conference, Jack announced 90,000 plus hub sites deployed across, the globe, right? So just to give you a couple different data points, we've definitely seen an evolution in this product from the open data side all the way to the hub product side that Robert's really going to be talking about. And then we've seen a proliferation as well.
So in this slide is really just a high-level overview of our journey at the City of Charlotte. So 2018, we moved to the open data in the community hub, right? We subsequently created a couple of unsuccessful initiatives, right? So there's people creating websites, if you will, out in our org, and they didn't really go anywhere. In 2020, during the pandemic, we launched this thing called Open for Business, which really was business owners telling residents what their hours were, if they delivered food, what services they offered. And so we leveraged the community hub to say our residents could go out there and see what was happening in the local business space. And so we worked with Esri a lot to do that. Subsequently, after that, we went and we launched a brand new open data site, which is our open data site that we have right now. And then in the summer of 2022, through our new contract, we plussed up to Hub Premium, and in the winter of 2022, we launched the community, which I want to show you today. So here's our open data portal. So for those of you who have a really good memory, it's data.charlottennc.gov if you want to take a look. And then I want to talk about Open for Business just a little bit. And so this is like the beginning of our journey, right? We were trying to figure out how can we best get people to sign up for an account and then experience what we wanted them to experience. And we struggled a lot, right? We struggled a whole lot. And I remember like it was yesterday, it was Good Friday of 2020, and we were off of work, but Esri wasn't. And we got him on the phone, and we worked probably into the night to sort of make the hub do what we wanted it to do, and we made it happen. So that was sort of the very beginning of Jay and I's journey as we started, and I'll show you throughout the presentation where Jay plugged in, but it was super awesome. So I want to use this slide to say that in the beginning, we were sort of trying to do some automation, so people were filling out surveys and telling us about their businesses and what have you, and we wanted to do some like automation in terms of email. So back then we were using like SSIS and pulling down feature layers from ArcGIS Online, and then emailing people through a SQL server, right? It was just arduous and painful, really. And then we were editing data at the feature layer level, just in ArcGIS Online, right? And so now presently what we're doing is we're using Power Automate to send automated emails to people who are interacting with us, which is super awesome. And then we're using the ArcGIS Experience Builder to do that data editing piece, which for us really allowed us to put some of this technology in the hands of the non-GIS person and really allowed us as the GIS professionals to step back. So we're going to swap again.
So Robert mentioned kind of our partnership, and he asked me to speak a little bit about how you leverage your solution engineer. And I'm in the perfect spot to tell you about that, as I've been a solution engineer at Esri for 8 years. I'm also a team lead. I got an amazing team of solution engineers, and we talk about this all the time, right? Our interactions with customers, and we're really here to support you guys, right? We want to partner with you and hear about your initiatives and help you be successful with the technology. So when Robert came to me and said, hey, we're trying to do this open for business thing, it's like, all right, let's figure this out. As the community hub grew further, got a good example of like, all right, let's figure this out. So whether you know it or not, you have an account team at Esri that represents you, right? We got some wonderful Esri employees in this room today. If you haven't met with them, if you haven't stopped by the booth, please go check in with them and just say hello. And, you know, our goal is really to work with you, partner with you, hear about what you're trying to do, right? So you have access to an account manager, a solution engineer, training consultant, and really, you know, an entire family of One Esri employees to support y'all. And so let's talk about that interaction for the community side. Where is it good to use a solution engineer? When is it good to use a solution engineer? Robert came to me, he said, we're having an issue, right? We want to allow people to come back and modify their survey, but currently you have to know the global ID to get back into that survey, right? A really technical issue. It's like, yeah, global ID is, nobody's gonna be able to memorize a global ID. How could we really do this? So first thing I wanna call your attention to when working with solution engineers, as I said, thanks for your patience. So if you have a time deadline oriented project, sometimes solution engineers are not the best resource. We try our hardest. We want to get back to you within a couple days, a week. Every once in a while we get taken to some conferences, and it can take us a little time to get back. So if you have a very hard time deadline, be very communicative about that, and it might not work out, just to be clear, right? But if you have a little bit of flexibility on time, we're always so passionate about trying to help you work through whatever problem or situation that you have. So I said, thanks for your patience. Let's figure out how to come up with a way to get around this global ID problem. Next thing, you know, as solution engineers, as account teams, we're always trying to listen to your requirements. We're trying to listen to what you're doing with your project so that we can align our solution with that, right? So I said, hey, depending on your requirements, I think we have a couple ideas that I can pitch to you, right? So I'll give you some options. You can kind of feel through that. So that's another thing to be aware of when you're working with a solution engineer is we're going to do our best to align a solution with your requirements. However, our time is kind of limited, right? So we can't always listen to every requirement. So if you need like a really hard requirements gathering session, there's some other outlets that you could look at as well. Then this, right? A bunch of options and technology, and we're not going to necessarily sift through all this, but we're gonna produce a solution or a couple options that will get you to a solution, right? And in this case, I generated a super simple proof of concept that we could kind of work through. And the final piece, I said, so let's test this and see if it works, right? And also I encourage Robert, get some other people to test this as well, right? Because we're not really able to deliver you a finalized solution. We're kind of able to create a proof of concept and say, hey, you know, I think this is pretty close to what you're trying to do, but you definitely should test this and make sure it, you know, I might have missed something, right? So always trying to encourage folks. This last thing is the most important thing, right? This is what I live for, to get a note like that, right? This is nice. This is a solution. This is great. I absolutely love it.
4 exclamation points.
Yeah. I get paid by the exclamation point, so I love it, absolutely. So just wanted to share interaction on like how we kind of partner on these and a really good story to tell now on the rest of the community.
So remember how I said that we had a couple failed initiatives? And we realized that the reason we had failed initiatives is because we had single paths to said initiative, right? And we sort of thought about that and said, well, how can we do that different? And so we came up with this initiative inside of an initiative inside of an initiative concept, much like Amazon, right? So you go one place and you can get everything that you need. And so this is sort of an example of single path. People are going to get lost in the sauce in terms of how many different URLs they have to memorize. And we went with sort of this one landing page with many initiatives buried inside of one initiative. And the point was, we really wanted our customers, or our residents in this case, to go to one place and say, wow, here's a lot of services and a lot of things that I can take advantage of, and I only have to go to one URL. It's community.charlottenc.gov, right? And then we went one step further and we said, well, let's take some of the things that we're already doing with our residents and let's put that in there, right? And this particular example is the housing locational tool, which I'll talk a little bit about later. But what I wanted to really show here is when you use the single initiative or initiative inside of initiative, you sort of get your design and your accessibility pieces put together, and you could just copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And so what I'm showing here really is this little yellow versus the green look and feel of that tile. That was an ADA requirement that we had from our corporate communications and marketing division, right? Another thing was they were really interested in us having multiple languages. Well, we use the out-of-the-box language selector, right? So we could prove out that we are able to give this content in many different languages, right? Spanish is really our only required one, but Esri does a really good job of giving them all to you. So another thing I sort of mentioned, we followed a style guide, and we just were able to copy, paste, right? Talked about the language a little bit already. And then we created a bunch of videos on YouTube, right, that were also in other languages. So really to give the resident sort of, hey, what is this thing that I just landed on? And they can watch a video and understand exactly what it is. And so I say it takes a village, because not only did we partner with Esri, but a whole bunch of departments and a whole bunch of really creative folks in our organization to put all of this together and meet the ADA requirements and have videos and a lot of really talented people did a lot of really good work. So how to become a member? This is something that we were really interested in, like not using the out-of-the-box sort of how to become a member, or creating an account through Esri's way. So we got really smart people to come up with a way to create your account through survey submission. And the reason for it is we wanted to capture a bunch of information about that resident from the get-go. So their phone number, their address, the type of phone that they used, XYZ. And so it's really to start to build a Rolodex of people that were engaging with us. So who we serve with this platform, really every resident in the city of Charlotte, but I want to highlight sort of a couple of really marquee things that we're doing. So affordable housing developers, this is a really big thing for our city council, giving people a score for a location based on a bunch of data that then we could use that information to then decide how much we're going to fund said affordable housing development, right? So they're all coming in through our community, Charlotte community. Our neighborhood leaders, so Charlotte has a whole bunch of neighborhoods and a bunch of really active neighborhood leaders, and so we're giving them a way to sign up to tell us that they're engaged in their neighborhood. We're doing that through a survey, right? And then another thing that we do is if you've ever been to Charlotte, we're growing so fast, it's actually insane. There's probably 3 cranes in my neighborhood right now, right? We use this kitchen sink application that's called Charlotte Explorer, right? And we said, hey, we're going to create a map specifically for the development community, because these are the things that you need to know about, and you don't really care about a whole bunch of other data that's in that application, right? But they're able to do that through the Charlotte community. And then this is really the programs and the departments in our organization that we serve. So Housing and Neighborhood Services, my new department, a whole bunch, right? General Services, all the way out to strategy and budget with our capital improvement projects. So these are all the initiatives inside of our initiative. I want to blow through some of this really quickly because I'm going to try to do a quick demo. So we use surveys and we use groups to really manage all of the things in the back end. We use Power Automate to sort of send all of the automated emails and do all of the heavy lifting for us. More on the surveys, and so some of the things that we're doing, we are producing contracts for our Adopt a City Street, right? We're allowing people to sign up to understand what's happening in their neighborhood through an application called Development Near Me. We're sending scheduled emails based on some survey submissions that people are giving us. I'm going to show the lion's share of that, so I'll blow through this. And then I kind of talked about this earlier, using Experience Builder to allow people in the back office to edit some of these data either on the behalf of themselves or edit the data on the behalf of the resident. But what we're also doing is sort of using this as a way to track or monitor to make sure people aren't putting completely inappropriate responses in our surveys before we make them public facing, right? But again, we put this in the hand of the back office staff so that the GIS folks in the organization don't have to do it. And again, this is just the same thing but different. This is the manager of said program editing surveys on the behalf of the resident. And then this is the thing that Jay and I worked on that he was showing the example. So we have this opt-in, opt-out, right? So you can come back to the profile in the community, find the survey that you submitted based on the title of the thing that you submitted, and then you're able to actually open up that survey and edit it, and then submit it back to us to change sort of your preferences or what have you. So I'm going to attempt to do a quick demo on some of the things that I just talked about with this very little space, and Jay's going to tell me to. We're going to do the demo at the end because I'm not on the internet. I apologize. Jay? Yes, sir. This is me. Okay. So what's next for us? Commercial truck parking. Well, since I put this presentation together, that's actually live. But the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to go back and revisit. So we're 3 years old, right? And we already want to go back and revisit some of the things that we've put out there and do some revamping, specifically on our neighborhood organization contact list initiative. And so here was sort of the sneak peek of the commercial truck parking, but the backstory really is in Charlotte, we have a bunch of people who are parking their commercial vehicles in our neighborhoods, and city council is involved, and so then we got involved, right, to say we're going to create an application to allow truck drivers and people who own truck parking lots to communicate with one another to say, park there for $25 a week versus park over here for a ticket of $50 a day or whatever it might be. And just to highlight sort of, we don't just give people information about like where to park or where not to park, but we're actually giving them the regulations right here in that website. So they don't have to go digging through our ordinances and things like that. So one of the many, many things that the Community Hub can do, and I'm going to pass it to Jay.
Yeah, I think to kind of summarize, I think one of the most amazing things that they've tapped into on the Community Hub is the survey aspect, right? So the fact that you can create a Rolodex and you can fill out a survey about yourself and submit it. And then what happens when you move and your address changes, or you get a new cell phone, you get married, your name changes, you can always go back and edit that, right? So Robert called out the opt-in, opt-out. So for getting development near me notifications, you know what? I signed up for, what do you have, weekly? Is it weekly? Yeah. Weekly was too much. I want to go to monthly. You can always go back and change those settings. So that's just one thing that I definitely want to highlight, is that the ability to have those community users is directly tied into the fact that they can then go back and change their survey. Can they go and edit Robert's survey or my survey? No, they can only edit their own. So that's really like a big light bulb moment around Charlotte's use of the Hub premium product. Couple things come in for Community Hub. You know, overall, if you use the technology, you might have noticed we've really kind of rebranded how we do sites, initiatives, and projects. It used to be that everything was going to be a glorious Hub site. We receive feedback. That's great. Sometimes I just have a really simple need for a project. I don't have time to do a bunch of CSS styling, and I can't write a bunch of narrative copy. Instead, I just need a project site that's going to show some key data indicators. So we've rolled that out. That's something that you might want to check into if you're interested in having more like data-driven product or project reports through Hub. The next is teams. Teams are simply just groups, right? Groups in ArcGIS Online. We've really created a nice Teams workspace so that if you have developers in the community that you're giving access to, they could submit data through this team, in fact, so that it could be uploaded to ArcGIS Online via the teaming capabilities. Workspaces, if you're used to the blue drop-down where there's a lot of options, we've actually changed that over now to a much more user-friendly workspace. That might be something that you've experienced already. If you haven't, check it out. I think you'll enjoy it as a better user experience than navigating a massively long drop-down. Discussions, this is something that some people are super interested in. Other people are a little standoffish on, so use it if you want to use it. The discussions can be tied to specific geographic features. You can draw points, lines, and polygons and attach comments on there and at people and have really possibly powerful conversations about things like volunteer efforts and where we need to arrange various resources. We've had some improvements in the Hub download space. That's been, a source of some frustration in the past. We've really retooled this. If you check out I'm happy to help you find these resources, but if you Google Hub downloads, you'll find it as well. We released a blog about what we've done to change that. Also, this nice Christmas-themed download guide will keep you festive through July about how we are handling downloads and how that manifests in the different types of services, whether it's image services, hosted feature layers, ArcGIS server map services. It kind of goes the whole gamut. The final very exciting thing we have going on in the Hub space is the Hub AI Assistant. So this is an AI assistant. It's currently in beta. And essentially, you can see on the screen, you're able to click on various prompts. It's crawling all your metadata. It's then going to present you with options and will help you do something like build a map. So when you think about members of the community that might not be comfortable in the map viewer and adding data sets to a map, this can be a really easy way for citizen scientists or other groups to ask questions of your open data site through a chat-assisted AI prompt. You can click on the options that are there, the prompts, but you can also just type in questions just with natural language. You can do this in Spanish as well or other languages, and it will actually respond to you in the language that you asked the question in. So some very exciting stuff in that space. This is currently in beta. We'll be seeing it come out over the next year or so. Yeah.
All right, now I'm going to do the demo. Jay and I debated when the demo should happen. He taught me into mid-presentation, but it turned out...
It found its natural spot.
Turns out it is at the end. So I'm on the wrong. So what I want to do first is just go to the homepage and show you sort of what the slides were depicting. So all of our initiatives inside of this one website, right? When you go in, and I struggle calling it a website because our corporate communications and marketing folks that manage our real Charlotte website, they get a little finicky about it, right? When you go in, you notice that I'm signed in up here at the top. You notice that we're following North Carolina law. But when you go in, you're getting a bunch of information, just like you would on any website, right? But then you're starting to see some options about how do I sign up for emails, register for emails. This is going to open up a survey that you can fill out and submit, and then, like Jay said, you will get an email, right? Another initiative we have. Adopt a city street, so video front and center on how to do it, because let's be honest, some of these things are easy for people like us in this room, but maybe not for anyone or any random resident. And so I'll just sign in here. I got my alter ego, Robert Zoo. And so I've already sort of keyed up this application where I've selected some streets in Charlotte, and I really want to be engaged. I select that final segment. I get a mile. I can submit, and then what happens is a series of things in the background happen through Power Automate, and some contracts get generated, and some emails get sent, and it's really awesome, right? Another thing that you can do, and I sort of talked about this, this is our development near me, right? This is the first survey I showed you, but here's the application to really just say, here's all the things that are happening within a half of a mile from my house. This happens to be my house, right? And so, which is really awesome, right? But what if I want to know what's happening every single week? Well, I call this like the nosy neighbor email, right? So I'm getting an email every week of all the residential projects that are being permitted, and commercial projects that are being permitted, and even home sales in my area, right? And so one thing that's pretty cool, I always like to show this off, is like we even tell you what address you gave us, and we'll pass that address right back into the following North Carolina law again, right back into the application, right? And the last thing that I want to show is this for me, I think is one of the absolute coolest things. Let me show you how I got here. My profile at the top of the page, this says like what surveys did I fill out, right? So here's my initial user survey. I can edit that if I move to Los Angeles, right? Or if I'm getting a weekly email, right, and I want to make it monthly, I can come back and visit my survey as that signed-in user, right? And I can say, now give it to me monthly. And in fact, I don't really care about all these parcels that are selling in my neighborhood. And then I just hit submit. If I want to opt out at the bottom, I can say, stop, I no longer want this anymore, right? But I think the really important thing to note here is behind the scenes, we're doing a lot of things to sort of put us in the 21st century as it relates to technology through Power Automate. So if you're not using Power Automate or don't have access to it, like, you really should, because it really does a excellent job as it relates to the things it can do with Esri products specifically. So that's sort of the demo that I wanted to give you. And again, the website is community.charlottenc.gov if you want to go out there and play around yourself. And I think we have one last slide, which is, hey, if you really want to learn more, I know Jay, I'll speak for Jay here. Jay and I both would be really interested in hearing from you. I'm an open book, and I'll share everything that I've done so far in this product. So, Jay, do you want to have any closing remarks?
I'd just say thank you so much, Robert, for co-presenting, and thank you all for being here. We really appreciate you, and we're here to take questions. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
For Robert, and it's kind of side adjacent, do you have an in-house ADA coordinator, or did you hire a third-party auditor?
So at the time we started this, we did not have an in-house ADA coordinator, but we do now. He was our webmaster, and he transitioned into the ADA coordinator. So he was with us every step of the way, going, no, yes, no, change this. Yeah. So.
I got a follow-up question for you
Yeah.
on that. Because we see this a lot, right? Difficulty working with corporate communications, and you gave me the best quote at some point that y'all are BFFs. It's like, did y'all pull them in from the beginning? Is that the secret sauce there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, what we did is we grabbed the style guide, which is the thing that they live and die by, and we say, look, we got the style guide, and they were like, that's cool. And then we said, but we want you to come along with us. And so by just having the style guide printed off, made them like the happiest people we've ever interacted with. So I think that's, when I say it takes a village, like getting them involved very early was very important. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Just curious if you track how many users you have.
We do, and I looked not too long ago, I think we're upwards of 2,900.
Okay.
Yeah, which is, for something like this, is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
How do you communicate its availability to people that live in Charlotte?
Yeah.
So it's like more well known.
Yeah, so we have this whole communications department, right, that do press releases and all that good stuff, put hand flyers out, whatever. And so again, partner with them, and so every chance we get, we're like, hey, push this out. And in fact, we just launched the commercial truck parking thing, right? Which is another opportunity for us to say that's out there, but wait, there's more. So, in the back?
Yeah, what is the next update for Hub?
That's you.
The last update was going to be with every ArcGIS Online update. So we just updated ArcGIS Online, I believe, at the end of February. The next update will probably come more around user conference time. So
Do you think you're going to Bootstrap 5.0 or you're still going to be on 4.0?
that I am not sure, but if you want to come chat with me, we can track it down.
How are we on time?
You guys are good. Yeah, there's a few more minutes. If anyone
Any
has
other questions?
questions, we'll go early.
Come on, you got something.